potentially. So this we've got something called Did You Know, which kind of encompasses the lesser known snippets of value or USPs of our proposition. That even some of you that might be on the call who know exactly what we do, you use us a lot, you already advocate for our product, there's still going to be some things that you'll potentially learn here. And if you don't, a lot of this will be new and hopefully you'll learn a lot that can potentially help you take us forward and use us as part of your proposition going forward. I'll come back to any questions at the end if that's okay. So just drop them in the chat as we go along on anything that I talk about or anything else that's unrelated to what you hear today that you just want to know more about. And I'll answer anything as best as I can at the end of the session. And that could be about anything our proposition offers, even if it's not been touched upon in this presentation. So don't hold back on anything. It's always a good opportunity to ask when you've got someone live to answer those questions for you. We do work on a regional account management basis. So you have a dedicated regional account manager in case you come off the back of this and don't use us and you want to start using us. I'll send a follow-up, and if you respond to me based on where you are in the country, I can link you in directly with your regional BDM if one of the outcomes of this session is that you want to start using us and you need to know more about how you get started with LVGI. I won't take a temperature check on it just because I can't see the chat, but hopefully most of you do at least write home insurance at the moment. And if it's with us or you at least use us as one of your options, even better. It is still an underrated product in terms of the mortgage space. It's not recommended anywhere near as much as it should do. And as someone who's worked as a protection BDM for L&G in a former life and now works on the GI side of a different business, I know exactly why people tend to recommend things like protection more than they do GI. But and hopefully some of what you see today dispels some myths on that and actually gives you some reasons to think actually I should review this if I don't write it already. So there are going to be a number of points that I'll go through one by one. Like I say, ask questions ready at the end. I'll come back to those that have questions and answer them. As you think of them, go along, just type them in and we'll return to them at the end. So it is important to note that we do have one of the strongest propositions in the intermediary mortgage space. I don't think that's just my opinion. We have competitors who just simply don't offer the same things that we offer. And to be fair, they're better at certain things that we're not. But I'm going to touch on a lot of the things that I think we're better at and what makes us stand out from the rest. And also not just the IFA market, but also the direct market, which I also understand for those of you that do write home insurance at the moment. You might have some challenges with the direct space at times with your customers on certain things. So I'm just going to kind of emphasize how better we are in both elements to support you guys and your business. So the first point that I want to touch upon, which is one of our strongest USPs, we're what we like to call completely fee-free. Now, those of you that do potentially use us at the moment, you'll know that we don't actually charge your clients any interest fees if they want to pay monthly for the product. I don't know anybody else in the intermediary mortgage space who does that. So I'm happy to stick my neck out to suggest that we're the only ones in your space that offer 0% interest on direct debit payments. Most customers who go online and take out a policy will be expected to pay some sort of direct debit charge. I've seen them as low as 8%. I've seen them as high as 25% of the full premium. But the key USP that you might not know about, just to go a little bit further than that, and this is why I call us fee-free, we don't actually charge the customer to make any changes, amendments. There's no hidden fees, and there isn't even a cancellation fee if a customer takes one of our products through you guys. So that's what we mean by when we say free, 0% interest, no admin fees. It's really typical, again, both in the intermediary mortgage space and in the wider market, to charge customers transaction fees if they've got to make an amendment, they've got to make a change. 20, 25 quid. I've seen it more expensive than 25 quid from some people, just to do common things that you might expect someone to have to do midterm on an insurance policy. add or remove sections of cover. They've got married or engaged. They've got to add an engagement ring or a wedding ring. Change their address if they move house mid-term policy and need to take it across with them. Even doing simple things like making clerical changes, like a marital name change. That sort of stuff is charged for by most providers. And when you get into pricing objections with customers who might suggest things like, oh, I found it £2-3 a month cheaper online with this provider. A lot of this stuff isn't disclosed to the client up front. They don't know they have to pay mid-term adjustment fees. They don't know they have to pay cancellation fees if they want to get out of the contract one day. And they might not even know they've got to pay an interest charge until the very end of the transaction. So when people say to you, oh, it's £2-3 a month cheaper, is it actually £2-3 a month cheaper compared to what we can offer you guys with something that's free? Just to give you guys a little bit of insight, the average customer calls LV 3 times an insurance term to make a change or amendment that would usually cost them money to do so. So I always like to say, when it comes to handling objections on price, if customers are charged £20 a transaction fee mid-term and you apply the logic of 3 times per insurance term, you can do 20 times 3. That's suddenly an extra 60 quid a year. And if the customer doesn't like that and want to move away from it, oh, by the way, it's going to cost you 25 quid to cancel that contract. So is it genuinely £2 or £3 a month cheaper? And do they know that? So yeah, this is one of our standout USPs, completely fee free. The only premium the customer pays for the product is for the proposition is the product that you guys offer. So that's all they pay for it and nothing else. And that's a really, really important thing to hold on to when it comes to our proposition, because I don't know anybody else in this space who does that. The second one, both our products are 5-star de facto rated. So we pride ourselves on quality of both strength of our brand and the strength of the product that we offer. It's really common. We offer a gold and platinum product, by the way. So we have a gold base product, and then you can upgrade that to a platinum product. And they're both 5-star de facto rated. It's really common in the home insurance market that where a provider's got a 2-tier product or a multi-tier product, it can be more than 2. Sometimes you can see people with 3 versions of the product, for example. It's really common they sort of scale up in de facto. So it might go from sort of like a 2 or 3 star to like a 3 or 4 star, and then the top one's a 5-star. You don't usually see that the multi-level products are the top range de facto. And the reason that we have is because of the strength of the product. So you can still recommend the lighter inverted comma product, the gold one, and still actually offer a quality 5-star de facto rated product to your customer. Naturally, people ask, how can you still have 2 5-star de facto rated products, but they're 2 different levels? Our platinum product, it gives everything on the policy that the customer would need for an overall wrapped up price. So that'll include buildings and contents cover, home emergency, family legal expenses, the highest level of accidental damage, so extended AD, and then unspecified personal possessions. That's all baked into the product, and they could just be recommended that, and anything else you need to add on that would just be a matter of specified items or pedal bikes. On the gold version of the product, so you still get buildings and contents, and then you'll have the option to add legal expenses and unspecified personal possessions. Now, normally you'll get multi-tier products that might stop the customer having certain sections of cover unless they go for a higher version of that product. You can have everything on our gold product for the customer that you can have on the platinum one. And that's the main reason why it's 5-star. There's no limitations to what cover you can have on the gold one if you want to go for the gold one and recommend that to your client. But you can see it's more of a sort of mix and match vibe than the platinum one. So you could say to the customer, I'll give you some unspecified PP on the gold. We don't need legal expenses, for example. That'll keep the premium cheaper. It might suit customers more on a budget, and it gives you more options to promote the product and secure the sale. One of the big USPs to point out on this as well is the home emergency element of cover. We give that included on both products, gold and platinum. That's a really big USP for us product wise. Again, a lot of alternative providers in the space tend to require you to add that on. I know some of our competitors in the mortgage space do that. They'll make you bolt that on. We include it on both levels of our product, gold and platinum, home emergency, free of charge, included in the product. No need to add it on either level. So you can see the level of flexibility that both options give you, and that's the reason they're both 5-star de facto. You can still pitch a quality product to a customer who might be more budget conscious, potentially a little bit more financially restricted, and you don't have to sacrifice any elements of cover to do that. The platinum just throws everything in there for the customer for a one size fits all price. On the gold one, you can mix and match everything to suit the client's needs, what their budget might be. And like I say, you don't have to sacrifice any sort of cover on that either. So that just sort of drives home the quality of the products that we actually offer you guys. And that's the important thing on insurance, by the way. I know it can be a price driven climate, and a lot of that's dictated by the customer. And if you think about the customer who goes through a mortgage journey, if you've gone through the recommendation of a mortgage, then the protection, etc. I understand the purse strings get tight when it comes to GI sometimes. I completely understand that. But we do always try and promote on quality where we can. Nobody goes online and gets an £18 a month product that covers them properly. So it's always worth food for thought to make sure that we're promoting the quality of the product, and that you're putting something on the customer's table that will cover them in the event they need it. There are plenty of people who unfortunately ignore advice and go online and still take out a product that's really cheap, just because they were told they needed to fulfill it for the obligation of a mortgage. And I always say about home insurance, people only ever find out the hard way, unfortunately. So you've got two products to go out with the client. They've got the backing of a strong brand behind them. They've got a 5-star de facto rate that you can find on most price comparison websites. So really drive home the quality and use that to convert your clients. Point number 3, our smart quote technology maps for flood. One of the more complicated facets of home insurance and whether we can or can't cover risks is always based around things like flood. You might get a surveyor's report that lands on your desk and says there's a river 30 meters away here, there's a lake 20 meters away here, or there's poor drainage in the area 10 meters away here, and you have to go and refer it to someone and say, can I write this or not? For maximum disclosure on our proposition and what it does, we only ask you 5 questions in the entire journey, so you can get a guaranteed quote in 5 questions. Those questions are the customer's full name, the customer's date of birth, what postcode you're trying to cover. So you type in the postcode, it gives you a drop down menu below for the property in that postal area. If the customer's had any claims or not in the last 5 years, and then what sections of cover you want for the customer. So I say 5 questions. There's only one that you need to know about the property, and that's just the postcode. That gives you a guaranteed home insurance quote. We don't ask anything, and that includes things like flooding in the area. So things like water sources, poor drainage, lakes, rivers, etc., like other providers may do. We don't ask any of that sort of stuff. We can give you a full quote and applied journey from start to finish in about 2 to 3 minutes. Those of you that may use us on the call already will know exactly what I'm talking about. Those of you who don't, hopefully that's piqued your interest on how to write quick home insurance with. And I think the most important USP off the back of that is there's low liability on you as the advisor. You're not having to answer X amount of questions to get a quote. The customer, most importantly, doesn't have to go online and expose themselves to that level of risk either. If anyone was curious to know, the average price comparison journey requires the customer to answer 58 questions to get a quote from start to finish. So you can imagine the level of risk that comes attached to that with a client. Do your customer a favour and tell them that you've got a low liability option via LV that will only make you answer 5 questions. There's only one about the property itself, which is the postcode, and it will do things like map for flood risk for you. So all that stuff that you usually get on a surveyor's report that makes things like flood complicated, we strip that away and we make it much easier for you to make a recommendation. If we're quoting for it, we will cover it. Just to kind of give, if anyone's sitting there still wondering how do they do that, what's the technology that drives that, we use about 600 data sources in the background that automatically pull information about the property. So for example, year build, I'll just pull year build out. There might be 21 data sources in the background that pull information about the year build of the home. Let's say 20 of them say this was a 1980 property, and then one stands out and says this was 1981, actually. We would rate on majority rule, and the pricing in the background would be built around 1980. Now, some people sometimes like to curveball me and say, oh, okay, let's say the 1981 was the one that was actually correct at claim stage and the rest were wrong. It wouldn't matter. We take liability for the data that sits in the background. If we've quoted your customer, we'll cover that customer at claim stage. So think about the ability that you have, the power that you have to recommend something to your customer that's not just a quality 5-star de facto rated product, but also limits the liability for you and them. When we talk about protecting someone, and someone might still go away and say, I found it online for £2-3 a month cheaper, think about how much more that £2-3 a month actually getting you in terms of value. And the low risk and the low liability element of it is huge for that. So make sure you shout about that. Don't do an injustice to your clients in the mortgage journey, and don't tell them that you've at least got access to something like this, because they can't find it anywhere else. It's exclusive through you guys. We do use the flood re-government scheme as one of the data sources in the background to provide better coverage for flood across the country as well. So we're also a lot sharper on flood risk properties that may potentially sometimes leave customers struggling to get cover in, say, a direct space. Okay. Number 4, you can refer declined risks to us. One of the downsides of our system, for those of you that do use it, is that if we do decline a risk for some reason, it won't actually tell you why we decline it. If you let either me or your regional account manager know the address that you're trying to quote for, we can actually find out in the background why it's declining and then potentially overturn it as well. Smart quotes, it's not perfect. It is slightly imperfect sometimes. I'd like to say it's too sophisticated for its own good, so it will decline things it sometimes shouldn't do. But this is why it's important to refer them, to make sure you don't have to let them walk away necessarily, because you can still get cover for us in some instances. Typically, so I mentioned a few moments ago that one of the questions that we ask is about the customer's claims history and whether the customer's had a claim in the last 5 years. If the customer tells you they had a claim, and let's say they say it was June 2024, Smart Quote will scan that in the background and say there's been a claim, but it was actually July 24, so the customer's slightly out, which isn't beyond the realms of possibility. People could sometimes not get the exact date right when they had a claim, but if it's not exactly rightly input in the system, it will decline on fraud or potential fraud. But we can tell you what the exact date should be. You can go back and re-enter the correct date, and it will then quote you. That's just a good example of Smart Quote's over sophistication, if you like. Similarly, again, if you're quoting for a property that doesn't have a house number, so it's like it's just a name of it's just a name of like a building, and then the rest of it. It sometimes thinks that's a commercial property, for example. So that can also be a problem as well. And it won't quote it and stuff like that. So you go through a decline risk, and you say to us, oh, this isn't quoting because he thinks it might be a commercial property because there's no house number. We'll be able to overturn that in the background. Sometimes we can't, and we'll tell you when we can't, and for what reason, but sometimes people just let it walk, unfortunately, when they don't need to, and there may still be an option. And that's especially useful for customers who live in sort of like standard areas, or they have non-standard cases they may need to quote for us. So that, to always remember about the clinic, just we can look to overturn them potentially. Number 5, this is also a big USP of our proposition. Quotes are valid for 180 days. This is a big one because not a lot of people in our space do this. It's really common, actually, both in the mortgage space and in the direct space as well. 30 or 60 days is normally what's common. But we think 180 days perfectly complements the typical mortgage journey. So if you've got a customer who's, you're completing on a mortgage way ahead of time, you can give them a quote straight away from the very start. So you can have that quote secured for the customer, locked down. It's valid for the next 6 months. You can give customers your reassurance and say, I've already quoted for you. You don't need to go and look elsewhere. By the way, if you stick with me, I'll make sure this price is valid by the time you complete. With providers where you've got, say, a 30-day or a 60-day quote validity, you have to potentially requote that client at some point in the mortgage journey. The premium could change. You suddenly got to go back to the client and say, remember when I told you it was, £25 a month, it's now going to be £32 a month. Is that okay? Do we need to change anything? We can help you avoid awkward conversations like that with a 180-day quote validity period. Anyone who does remortgage business as well, and you do remortgages or PTs for clients, it's normal to get in touch with the customer 180 days in advance. This is also perfect if you're looking to pull their GI across as well, because again, you can have the quote ready to go, and say to the customer, by the way, by the time we complete your renewal or your product transfer, the new insurance that I've recommended for you is also going to go in place. The 180-day quote validity is really strong. Happy to be corrected, but I don't know anyone, both in the intermediary space or the direct market, who does 6 months. It's extremely generous. Like I say, perfectly complements the mortgage journey. Use it to your advantage. It is definitely one of the strongest in the whole market. There might be someone else who does it. I don't know them, but they may do. But I know most of our competitors, at least in the mortgage space, they only offer 30 or sometimes 60 days. I just think 30 days, you're potentially re-quoting the customer 2 or 3 times. So as a consequence of that, a lot of people don't do it up front. And that's when you sort of lose grip with GI, when you leave it too late. So we've got something that also perfectly complements your sales process and allows you to get a quote in front of the customer instantly. Tell them that you've already done that for them. They don't need to go and do anything. And that locks people down a lot easier in the mortgage journey when it comes to home insurance. Massively helps people's conversion. Number 6, you guys have the best version of LV's proposition. And what I mean by best version is one of our biggest disadvantages, working for a sort of big corporate brand, is that they want presence everywhere. So LV are on most price comparison websites offering a version of the home insurance product. We're on a lot of broker panels as well. The customer can get us through multiple channels of distribution except you guys, and that's always a challenge for me as a BDM, because people sometimes come to me and say, well, I'm trying to compete with LV in other space, my customer's gone on here and found LV cheaper, what do I do? A legitimate concern, and again a concern that some of our competitors don't have to field against because they only operate in the mortgage space. However, tactfully, LV have positioned their best product in the intermediary mortgage space. And what I mean by that is some of the USPs I've touched on previously. We'll go for the most recent one, 180-day quote validity. Only you guys get 180-day quote validity. LV direct on their website, LV price comparison, their quote validity is 30 days. So the customer might find it a couple of quid cheaper at the start of their mortgage, but are they going to find it that same price in 6 months' time? Probably not. Right. Another one that I mentioned, the smart quote technology, giving you guys a guaranteed home insurance quote in 5 seconds, 5 questions, 10 seconds. Some people go, great sister, really slick, really sharp. I like the sound of it. But if it's LV and my customer can go online and do that, what's the benefit for me? Well, they have to go and answer a 4 question set. That's the benefit for you guys. If a customer goes to direct LV, they go to a price comparison website, they have to answer, what did the average I said earlier, 58 questions? They have to go and answer a 4 question set. Time, effort, loads of liability because they're responsible for the information they're inputting. Only you guys have access to the 5 question smart quote set with no liability. That's also really important to mention, because again, you're saying to people who've gone and found LV elsewhere, you're not getting the best version of LV's proposition. You can only get that through me. Let me help you. The fee stuff as well. It would be remiss of me to not mention that too, because if the customer goes and finds LV direct, or they find LV on price comparison websites, the LV.com charge the customer to make amendments midterm. LV price comparison website charge the customer to make amendments midterm. And they also charge interest on their policies as well. LV price comparison website is between 8.5% and 12.5%, depending on which comparison website the customer finds us on. And LV Direct on their website, they charge 24.9%. It's kind of staggering. It's almost a quarter of the premium on interest charge. That's just to show you the emphasis of the fee-free proposition and how strong it is. With mandates and stuff, direct debit mandates, they're not obliged to reveal the interest charge till the customer signs the mandate. So a lot of them put the mandate at the end of the journey when the customer's about to finish it. Well, I was expecting to pay a direct debit charge anyway, so I'll just agree and move on. Right. So it's really important to understand that you have the best version of LV's proposition. Okay. That's a really big thing. Number 7, you've got a dedicated support team. So we are passionate about the intermediary mortgage space at LV. Hopefully that's become apparent in some of these USPs that I've gone through with you today. And just to kind of go further on that level of support, you do have a dedicated support team at TMA. So you will have a strategic account manager who overlooks the whole network relationship. That'll be a lady called Rachel. I'll give you her information as well in the follow-up. You will also have a dedicated regional account manager based on where you are in the country. We have regional account managers. There's 5 of them across the whole of the UK. If you want to know, I'll put the information on each of them and where they're located. If you're still not sure which area that you might sit in and you need to know who your regional account manager is, just fire me an email back or ask. If you want to ask the question now, tell me where you are. I'll let you know who that is. I can copy in their contact information for you and you can reach out to them. They can help you with any dedicated day-to-day support. We also have a partnership sales team. For those of you that have used them before, hopefully you'll know how good they are. They're on a general line, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. The idea behind them is that they prevent you guys having to go into the public call centre queue to get queries answered. I still get people who call me up and say, "Oh, I've been waiting for someone to answer the phone for 45 minutes." And then I find out they didn't know about our partnership sales team. They specifically serve the intermediary space. You'll get through to someone straight away. You don't have to wait. It's a ring fence line for IFAs only. Please take advantage of them. They're also available on an email, which I'll send in the follow-up. And we also have an agency management team who look after any commission queries, any payment queries that you might have. Again, they're on a dedicated business line for you guys. They're also on a dedicated inbox. I'll give you their details as well. So you've got the fully encompassed range of support available, and you know where you need to go for everything that you need. And if you've been using some one of those things you felt or didn't have a support point for that before, never knew they existed, well, hopefully now you do, and I'll share all that information with you about your dedicated support team that we have towards mortgage business here at LV GI. And then I do have a final point that gets asked a lot, that a lot of people don't know that we do. We do offer a landlord's product. For those of you that might write buy-to-let mortgages, it's lesser known of our proposition purely because our predominant bread and butter is residential mortgages. So a lot of people don't know much about our landlord's product that we offer it, but there's always people who come up to me and go, "Oh, I didn't know you did that. Oh, I didn't know you did landlords. I've got an appetite for that." And you can access it in the exact same way through our direct portal. We offer a 4-star de facto rated single landlord's product. It's not multi-tiered like the residential one. It's one product, 4-star de facto rated. You can do buildings, landlord's contents, and you also get the option of 2 additional levels of cover via the legal expenses element of the product. And we also offer a landlord's home emergency product as well. That usually gets a few queries when people realise that we do a landlord's offering. It's a bit more niche in the wider market than it is residential. So it's important that we can offer that to you guys because you know there's still an appetite for buy-to-let. So those of you that are potentially curious about writing landlord's insurance business, just know that we do offer our own product in that space as well, accessible via the Quote and Apply portal. Most of the USPs that I've mentioned on the residential apply for landlords as well. So it is a 180-day quote validity for the landlord's product too. We also don't offer any fees on it in the same way as well. So no interest charge on the landlord's product, no midterm adjustment changes charge, no cancellation charge either. The only one that's slightly different, and this is maximum disclosure on this, we don't use the smart quote technology behind the landlord's product. So you have to answer questions to obtain a quote. Um, we can cover multiple policies, so like portfolios. That's something that's within our risk appetite. So if you've got a customer who's got more than one product and they've got more than one property, you can continue, you can give them the landlord's product to stack properties on top of each other. That's not a problem. Um, and yeah, I know there's a few other potential risk appetites that you may ask questions about that I can confirm or deny if you want to know from a risk appetite what we do and don't accept. But yeah, really important to make sure the landlord's product gets mentioned and doesn't fall by the wayside. Not enough people know about it. It's only about 4% of our overall product mix. That is mostly because we are, residential home insurance is our bread and butter, but it's also low because we know that we don't shout about it enough and not a lot of people know about our landlord's products. So it's always important to give it a platform in front of an audience where we feel like we should do so. Yeah, 2 5-star de facto residential products, a 4-star landlord's product as well. That can hopefully plug a few gaps for you, those of you out there that write buy to let mortgage business. Those are our 8 sort of lesser known snippets of info about our proposition that you may have not known. That's my information there. I'll share you all the details that you need for your strategic account manager, Rachel, at LVGI for TMA, and also your regional BDM for anyone that's potentially asked or may need to know more information about who their local BDM is who can help them day to day. They can do things like run sessions with you in your firm as well. They'll help you with training, educational material, any day to day support with policy queries, admin queries, etc. Reach out to them. And that's the presentation part of it. Have we got any questions? Someone says, how do we register using TMA as the mortgage club? Is there a difference in the life book? So the proposition is available via both the Toolbox application for those of you that might use Toolbox. So you can actually find us under the quick quote facility in Toolbox. Alternatively, we do also offer a direct version of the portal. If you want to get access to the landlord's product, you need to be able to log into our direct portal because we don't integrate into Toolbox with the landlord's product. That's really important to know. If you, it says anonymous under whoever put that. So if you want to